This is Negotiate X TV.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us on the Negotiate X podcast. We are continuing our conversation with
Mala Subramaniam.
My next kind of follow-up here is as a mentor and a coach to other negotiators, how does gender play a role in the direction that you provide?
That's a good question, and the thing is, women are not, from my experience. I don't want to generalize to the entire universe. From the many people that I have taught, the many people that I have coached, women and men, what I feel is the women are, able to think a little bit beyond today. They're more long term in their approach. At the same time, they have a lot of fears. What if I go in and ask and they say no? What do I do? The fear of outcome, fear of conflict, fear of offending other people. So more sensitive to all the fears, and that's what I feel. The thing, they're not into deal making. It's not about I, want this, and women also. What I feel are more like what I'm saying, more problem and solution driven. So it's easier, and this is what I jokingly tell people. For me, it's easier to teach women what I'm saying, the rules, than with men. Like, are you kidding me? Kind of. You're saying so. For instance, I'm going to give example of one female and one male so that I can illustrate what I'm saying rather than just talking in concepts. These two were in a company that the vice president had called me in saying, okay, there's a lot of conflict here. Can you come in? Is this cross-cultural or is this? And I went in, I talked to them and I said, no, this has nothing to do with cross-cultural. This is to do with a woman and a man, and their perspectives, particularly in India. If you're a male and you come from more of a, rural setting, you're very traditional. You have these expectations. And if a woman comes from, say, Bombay, which is like, the New York City type, then they're very different. So I said, this has nothing to do with, real cross-cultural communications. So I went and the woman said, I have to go to my boss and I want to be promoted. And it's this guy that is standing in the way. And so what do I do? So then I very clearly explained to her that instead of going and demanding and cornering the person and making them say no and feel uncomfortable, why don't you start a campaign of building yourself up? Send in your accomplishment grid, create a list of accomplishments and send it to everybody. Start sending it to a certain level and slowly move up, escalate it. And within 2 weeks, your people will start perceiving you differently. And then, make it impossible for your boss to say no to whatever it is that you feel you deserve. That's a need. Yeah. And don't go there saying, I want a promotion, explain to them why you being a director would help you accomplish projects in this company. And so she was able to do it beautifully. She did exactly what I advised and what I said. This is what, I said, I'm not going to guarantee, and I'm also not going to insist. But if you think, she was able to think about it more broadly, and she was able to approach it that way. And she became a director in 6 months. It didn't like overnight. And she was the one, when I asked her, what is your goal? She said, gain visibility. I said, no, that's not a goal. That's a dangerous goal. You don't want to gain visibility for the wrong thing. So that, and then I talked to the gentleman, and he said, why should I? They all know my accomplishments. They know I've worked here for so long. They should give me the promotion. I'm going to go and ask, and I'm going to tell them how much they have to pay me. He had to get out of the company because he asked and they refused and he was unhappy. So it's the women are more willing to listen to to the strategic way of doing things. In my experience, men are like immediate. This is what they think, the deal. I need the thing, and men are more about contracts, terms, and conditions, very transaction driven. Women are more, strategic, relationship driven. So that's where, and they're more multitasking too. So that's where I found the difference. So when I teach, then I realized when I work with uh, men, then I have to give a different way of doing it. A different approach. With women, it's a different approach. Did that address your question, Noel?
Yes, absolutely. No, I appreciate it.
Kind of building from that, because you talked a little bit about the cultural value system driving things a little bit in that as you started that piece. Can you talk a little bit more about cross culturally why value systems matter so much, Mala, and how do you help clients avoid kind of cultural clashes unnecessarily?
I think the best way to do it is to have them understand where the other culture is coming from. Because I've done a lot of presentations, and when I've gone there objectively, showing all the sociological theory about culture, rather than going and saying, this is what people in America do, this is what people in India do, these are the behaviors. Like one company asked me, can you give me the top 10 uh, approaches to handling cross-cultural behaviors, the top 10 list to handling people, give us, and this was a company that is a Western company, saying, can you tell me how to handle, the 10 tricks to handle Indians, Asian Indians? And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. Because each person, I give you the background, and then you figure out how you want to respond to that. And most of cross cultural, the problem happens is reaction, and what you want is response. So to gain a cultural understanding, for instance, America is all about individualistic, independent, transaction driven. Like in America, you can bargain or negotiate with a total stranger, and there will be no problem at all. It's all about terms, conditions, contracts, prices, product, delivery. It's all very clearly thing. It's very process driven country. Whereas the Asian countries are more about relationships. They're not going to talk to anybody that they don't know. So if you want to deal with somebody in India, you have to find someone that can make the introduction to you. So, and that's about relationship. Contract means nothing. They'll sign a contract, but then the real negotiation starts after the contract is signed, because that's when you really, and that's what a lot of the companies here in this country found, that the outsourcing model was failing, because Western thing was, okay, I've signed a contract, they're going to do what I asked them to do, and they're going to deliver it on time. Time is a totally different concept in India. Time is about movement. It's not about a stationary 9 o'clock is not 9 o'clock in India. It's somewhere, in between. And in fact, the term for time in India is call. Call means movement of space. There's no, so the orientation is totally different. So once the people here understood, for instance, in India, they'll say, I'll try, which means I'm not going to do it. I'm just being polite. So it's a very indirect way. A lot of the people raised here, they said, "Oh, I'll try." That means he's going to try, and they sit down, and then they get very upset when they find out that they are not even trying. For instance, they're called for a meeting on Sunday, and they said, "Okay, we'll try, we'll be there," and then they found out they were at a wedding. So he had called a whole lot of people waiting. So what one of the companies that I did the lecture, they said, I wish you had come in and talked before we signed the contract, because then we would not have wasted hours and hours and hours fine tuning all the contracts, getting the best lawyers. And this is a very big company I'm talking about. And they had, millions of dollars in this project. So to me, to understand the values, so the Indian values are based on, when you look at the history, India is all about, kings, hierarchy, royalty, and that still carries on. Relationships, India, the people would not even say anything negative to their boss. If they cannot do something, they're not going to say that to the boss. So that's the way they interact with the client. The client is like their boss, so they interact with them that way. So that, so to understand where they are coming, once the Americans understood where they are coming from, it was not like Indians are being dishonest and they're lazy. Those, uh, there was no stigma attached to that relationship. It was more like, okay, that's where they come from. So now we understand. So this is what we have to do. And I tell the same thing when I give lectures to Indians in India, that in America is very independent. It's very process driven. It's transactional. They're not going to waste time getting to know you in order to sign a deal with you. It's all like, okay, this is the project. And what I teach Americans is, when you're working with a country that is not process driven, not transaction driven, more relationship driven, community and things like that, hierarchy, then you have to lay down the process. You have to teach them what process is. You have to put the timelines and the expectations and what will happen if you don't meet the expectations. Is that
Yeah,
yes?
as you talked through that, it just took me back to what you were saying about communication signal at the beginning, and kind of, you know, not talking at or to someone, but talking with, communicating with someone. And it sounds like in cross cultural, that becomes really important as you have different kind of perspectives on time, process versus relationship, and other dynamics kind of occurring.
Yeah, and what happens is, they never came to a common understanding before they signed the contract. Without common understanding, there's no negotiation. It's what is bargain.
Well, Mala, here we are in 2022. The last time you and I talked, we were kind of at the early stages of this pandemic, and the world it continues to change so much. I'm curious, as you continue to work with clients here, given supply chain channels and or challenges and other things, um, from a negotiation perspective, what are your concerns? What do you see as the big obstacles, I guess, and or opportunities that your clients or you see businesses facing today?
Sure. I think, I mean, I hear a lot about the great resignation and how people are leaving in droves, and companies are trying to give them incentives, whatever, bonuses, time off and everything, but still that is not making a dent on the main problem. I think the main problem that I see, which requires a kind of a creative leadership, um, is employees are disengaged. They are not engaged with the company, with the values, with what they're doing. So that's why, for instance, when you are constantly going to work, you're interacting with people and everything. all that noise buries how boring your job is. I mean, I don't want to say that, but that you're kind of looking at all those things and are enamored by all that, and the real, what value are you adding to this job is lost. And then when you are alone, you're sitting down, I'm sitting here doing my work, then suddenly that kind of comes to the surface. Okay, what is the purpose of what I'm doing? What is the meaning? Where is the mission? I'm not engaged. So that disengaged. So what leaders have to do is the negotiation here is, what can I offer that will engage the employees? That would be the biggest.
Yeah, do
Go
you
ahead.
think leaders see that as a negotiation? Are they understanding that that's a negotiation or not?
I don't think so, because I'll give you an example. I read about it a lot. I was reading it in all the publications. I was reading some articles in LinkedIn, and they were talking about how this company is great. They have this diversity and inclusion manager, and that they are giving all these incentives. They're giving vacation packages to employees and everything. And I'm thinking, oh boy, you got it all wrong. The people are not engaged. Yeah, okay, a vacation package, that's great. I'll go and then I'll quit after I take the vacation, because mentally I've quit your company. The mindset, mind is no longer engaged. I've quit. So what do you do to engage? So maybe three of us can work on a negotiation for engaging the employees. Not, well, Dr. Deming is one of the guru of process change and change management and total quality management. He went to a company, and the director of that company came in and showed a cupboard full of all these plaques and awards and things like that. And Dr. Deming said, throw all of them, because that's not what is going to get the commitment from the employees or change or improve the company. So I think they're missing the boat, because the leaders are thinking, the leaders are not thinking like leaders. They are not thinking in the audience language. They are not looking at the audience. They're not even asking the right questions. When I saw a survey, and I said, no, 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 you're not asking the right questions, because when you don't ask the right questions, you're not going to get the right answers. So that, I can talk forever about that, but that is, I think, the main issue. Become employees are disengaged, and the negotiation is about, what is the common problem, what is the solution, and how do we come to a common ground on the options.
Hey, so Mala, as we start to close this thing out, is there anything that we didn't address that you want to highlight?
No, I think you addressed everything. I think all your questions, I think, basically surfaced the responses I would normally give. It was almost like a class on negotiation here. So I all the things that I had in my mind, and what I could share. The one thing that I would definitely, uh, request people is to read my book before you go to a negotiation class, because you would benefit more from it, because that way you're not going to let the tools and the techniques overpower you, and use that rather than using your own intelligence to see when and how to use these tools and techniques appropriately. I think that would be the biggest takeaway for me, for anybody, you know listening to this podcast is um, get internally focused and find out what your strengths are, and then see how you can use the tools and techniques to leverage uh, and to be. And I think that would be the biggest lesson or takeaway um, from our conversation.
Mala, thank you so much for joining us. Folks, I really encourage you to go grab Mala's book, Beyond Wins. You will enjoy it. The internal focus, so important. My takeaway today is the focus on success, right? That it is a journey. It's focused on long term. That it really build consensus about what is the problem. It's solution driven, and then as Mala was just talking about challenges that companies are facing, there's a focus when you're success oriented. There's a focus on leadership, negotiation as a critical skill for leaders, and I just can't overemphasize that enough. So again, with that, Mala, thank you for being with us.
Hey, thanks for listening to today's episode. If you could please rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast, we'd greatly appreciate it. And we'll see you in the next episode. Hey, thanks for checking out this video on NegotiateX TV. If you found any value at all, please hit the subscribe button, hit the notification icon if you want to be notified of future videos. And then we also have a couple videos over here that you might be interested in checking out. If you and your small business, your team, are looking to get negotiations or leadership training, then you can head over to negotiatex.com and learn more about the coaching services we offer. Thanks, and I'll see you over in the next video.